Welcome to the Food Service video training series. This video covers texture modified foods and fluids. This training is useful to anyone who works in food services. Before you continue, make sure you've done your pre-training questionnaire. Your manager or supervisor should have given this to you. This presentation will last about 7 minutes and it will cover what texture modified diets and thickened fluids are. It will talk about the consequences of not providing the right texture food or thickened fluid, and it will talk to how food services can help get it right. Texture modified foods and thickened fluids and drinks are used to enhance the safety and enjoyment of eating and drinking for those with swallowing problems or poor chewing ability. It's the speech pathologist's job to place people with swallowing problems due to dysphagia on texture modified diets and thickened fluids. They'll assess them for the correct texture. Other clinicians such as dietitians and nurses can put a person on a texture modified diet when it's required for a reason other than dysphagia, for example poor dentition or fatigue with eating. Being on a texture modified diet does not mean that a thickened fluid is automatically required and vice versa. Your food service menu system should clearly record what food texture and fluid consistency is required. There are currently 3 levels of texture modified diets. Let's have a look at soft first. On the soft diet, food may be naturally soft or may be cooked or cut to alter its texture. Food should be easily broken with a fork and it should require minimal cutting. On the soft diet, hard foods that need a lot of chewing are inappropriate. There should be no fibrous fruits or vegetables, and there should be no grain bread. Next is the minced and moist diet. On this diet, food should be soft, moist, and be able to be mashed with a fork. Lumps should be smooth and rounded. The minced food particles should have a maximum size of 1/2 centimetre. There should be no hard or sharp lumps, and breads, cakes and biscuits and rice are not allowed. The last of the diet textures is smooth pureed. On this diet, food is smooth, moist and lump-free, and it may have a grainy quality. Food should be moist but cohesive so it holds its shape on a spoon, and food should hold together on the tongue and not spread throughout the mouth. When placed side by side on a plate, these foods should not spread into each other, and they should not separate into a liquid and a solid. There are currently 3 levels of thickened fluids. The first of these is mildly thick. Mildly thick fluids are a nectar consistency, and the fluid runs freely off the spoon but leaves a mild coating on the spoon. These are identified by green labelling. Moderately thick fluids have a honey consistency, and fluid slowly drips in dollops off the end of the spoon. These can be identified by orange labelling. Extremely thick fluids have a pudding consistency. Fluid sits on the spoon and does not flow off. They can be identified by blue labelling. There are some fluids that can be consumed without thickening. These are thick custard, thick vanilla or plain yogurt, fruit, mousse, pureed fruit, thick gravies and sauces. So why have thickened fluids? Well, thickened fluids, including gravies and sauces, are required by those who can't control thin fluids in the mouth. Thin fluids can spread in the mouth and run into the lungs before the individual can swallow. Thickened fluids which maintain shape and size are more easily sensed in the mouth. Thickened fluids move slowly to the back of the mouth, allowing enough time for the individual to swallow. So what are the consequences of not getting it right? Individuals with difficulty swallowing may find liquids cause coughing, gurgle voice, or even choking, which can be life-threatening. Incorrect food texture can lead to aspiration. This is when a foreign substance is drawn into the windpipe during inhalation. If a patient has difficulty eating or drinking or encounters discomfort, they can become fearful of eating and drinking. This can end up with them consuming less than they need, and this in turn can lead to dehydration and undernutrition. So let's have a look at the role of food services. First up, it's important you know what foods and fluids on your menu are suitable for the different texture modifications. For example, some foods that become liquid at room temperature, such as ice cream and jelly, should not be given to individuals on thickened fluids. When preparing any foods for a texture-modified diet, it's important you ensure you follow a recipe that's been tested and approved by a speech pathologist and dietitian. Even vegetables for the soft diet should always be prepared and cooked in the same way and for the same time. This is to ensure the texture is correct and the same every time. When taking a menu order, always provide suitable and safe options based on their requirements. If in doubt, always check with someone. On plating line, always check that the right food and fluid is on the meal tray according to the person's needs. It's important you also check a person's requirements when delivering mid-meals and snacks. You need to ensure that food and drink is always safe for the individual. There will be some instances when a person can have food and drink of different texture or consistency. For example, when it's prescribed for reasons other than dysphagia or during palliation. However, this should always be approved by a clinician. Think about your job. Do you have to deal with texture-modified food and thickened fluids? Can you do anything differently to make sure that people get the right food and fluids? That's it. Let's recap what we've covered. We've talked about what texture-modified diets and thickened fluids are, and we've looked at the consequences of not providing the right textured food or thickened fluid. And we've looked at how food services can help get it right. After this training, think about how what you've learned can help you in your role. To help you do this, there's a fast facts handout that goes along with it. Please do the post-training questionnaire and hand this to your manager or supervisor once you've completed it. Thank you for completing the training.